Welcome to Shop Talk, where we chat about what's going on in our businesses right now, what's exciting, and what's challenging. When something exciting happens, we want to ensure we're taking a moment to recognize and celebrate our successes. And when things are challenging, talking through them to gather each other's perspective is often so insightful.
And if you're going through any of these challenges at the moment as well, we hope that by sharing openly, you know you're not alone and that as business owners, we're all navigating this crazy journey together. Welcome to Shop Talk.
Hey. So last time we recorded, were you like walking out? Yeah,
I
you were
was
like
I was I
leaving
was
and
leaving that night without a suitcase
you hadn't
packed
packed a single
at the
thing.
time of our recording.
So
Yeah.
we saw you looking pretty good in Peru, so you got that sorted out.
I got there. There was not a carry-on happening because I did not have the bandwidth to make those, like
To make
that.
those
Those are just,
cuts.
yeah, no, absolutely not. Everything in the suitcase, every
Yeah, literally
options,
was just like
like multiple jackets. Like when you have multiple jackets, it's all games off. But yeah, I mean, I made it to Peru, and overall, I feel like that was the exciting thing for my month because I feel like number one, obviously, new trip, new destination that I'd never been to before. So all new experiences, but also a fam trip that I was funding and hoping that would not only bring insight and experience to the team, but also like a sense of team bonding and just growing closer and being more invested. Like that's what I was hoping for overall. And so I actually just recorded a podcast with Kelsey and Ellen to kind of like have them share their experiences because not that I think it is like a very normal thing for people who do have employees to kind of make this type of investment, but it could be something to consider. And I wanted to just give like our perspective, both mine and theirs, on what it means. What was the value? Did you find it valuable? Like, and I said, hey, be honest, if you would have
like,
rather,
was this just a
yeah,
fabulous vacation, or did you experience any value in any way, shape, or form
exactly.
for your job? And
Exactly.
what was
So
their answer?
I
Just
mean, yeah, no. I think that so this is Kelsey's second fam trip with me, and this is Ellen's first. And I think both of them not only like it was so interesting because things that as small as the idea of like private transfers, right? Which is something you take for granted when you book private transfers day in and day out for your clients. But when you're 27 years old and you're just trying to travel somewhere, you're probably not spending your money on a private transfer or a private guide or anything like this. And so for her to experience like, oh, this is a level of ease that we are providing, and damn, this is nice. Like it feels real great to not have to think about
yep.
anything. They got
Hmm.
that experience of just like, oh, this is really lovely. Like these people are so invested in our day-to-day experience and on top of things, and we don't have to think about anything. And we're going to be out for lunch. So like here's a boxed lunch. So you don't have to think about where your nutrition is coming from. All of those small details really made kind of like what we actually provide make sense from a
Hmm.
value standpoint and appreciated, right? Like
Yep.
staying in five-star hotels is probably not their norm, but like who doesn't love that? Ellen was like taking pictures of every breakfast we had. Like these breakfasts are amazing, you're not walking to like the local coffee shop to just grab a pastry or whatever. Like
Uh-huh.
those types of things, I think from an experiential type of perspective was really important. They valued it. I think they saw the value. That was the one side of it that I think was really important. And then the other side of it, I think was, hey, like we actually like each other and we get along, but also I'm of the mindset that like I want these people to stick around. If I think you're doing a good job and you're helping the business and you're continuing to grow the longer you're here and understand what we do, why we do it, the mission, the values, all that stuff, I don't want to find somebody else in a year because you've moved on to bigger, better things. I know that as a small business owner and, the level of education they have or their, interests or whatnot, could they find a different job? Yes. I'm positioning myself as like, hey, yes, there's different kind of pros and cons to like going out to corporate or finding your 9 to 5 or whatever. But look at over here, the lovely work environment you get, the people you get to work with, the type of incentives that are available. That's what I'm trying to, present to them as well to say, let's look at the big picture here. And obviously, different phases of life and what matters to you is going to play a part. But if you like this job and you also like the different bonuses and incentives that I'm able to provide, let's be in it for the long haul. And all be better because of it. So selfishly, not selfishly, that's also a reason why
Right.
I choose to invest some of my revenue in this way.
As a business owner, just coming home from this trip, now the money has been spent, the experience has been had. What are the vibes around the trip? Like 10 out of 10 would do it again. That was a really good investment. Or are you along the spectrum of like, okay, I would do it again, but I would do some things maybe a little bit differently? Like how are you kind of processing the experience you
I
just had?
think for me personally, it was like if I was going to spend that same amount of money just on how I would enjoy it, it would be different. It would be spent differently, like as a travel experience or whatever. For my business and for what I think we got out of it, the only thing I would say I would consider doing differently, I was a little bit rogue, I would say, on destination. I don't sell a ton of South America. I don't sell a ton of Peru. I wanted part of it was ease of like what I could fit in that part of year. Was that particular investment best spent in that destination? Could it have been spent better in a destination we sell more of?
Mhm.
That probably was I was a little rash in like making that decision for a lot of different reasons. That would be maybe something I consider for next time in terms of like destination specific. And also like I have a bit more leverage in partners I use a lot or destinations I sell a lot to be like, yo, hook a sister up. I mean, I didn't have as much of that. Well, we still got some good, consideration considering all, the things. But
Mhm.
that would be something I would think of in terms of like how much I spent and what we sell and is that the best use. So experience wise, yeah, it was a great experience. Their specific knowledge or understanding of this place versus another place that we have more business in, maybe better spent that way for sure. I think that would probably be my number one consideration for the next time this opportunity comes around.
Did you treat this trip more of like a vacation where you had your itinerary, you had your hotels, you had your guides every day and you just let it be that? Or were there also like, site inspections or a talk about this hotel versus that hotel? Like how much like business talk was going on in the trip?
There was not a lot of additional site inspections. This is me. Like
Which doesn't surprise me because it's
yeah.
you.
And I did go back and forth on that. And then also Kelsey and Ellen were very willing to be like, hey, send us out on site inspections. Like if you want us to do things where you don't want to do it, but it's just like, hey, we're showing up on behalf of the business and we're looking like we're happy to do that. The kind of downside to this particular itinerary was that it was very busy. And the thought of like being gone on a 10-hour day and then coming home to kind of go look at hotel rooms just like makes me nauseous. And
I
I know
agree.
people do it, but I'm like, there's nothing to kill like a day more than to overtiredly just like add things to the day when
Like
people just want
roam
to like,
around a hotel and be like, beautiful.
yeah, this is oh lovely. Like you just say the same things over and over again. Wow. Like shoot me now. And so even when I inquired, like, where can we fit him in? And I would just like look at the day and then be like, duh, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
what I did instead was like, hey, when we were in Cusco, we were staying at the Inca Terra property. And I was like, okay, let's go get a drink at the bar at, the whatever autograph collection, the Palacio.
Mhm. Yep.
Let's go have a pisco sour there and walk the grounds and get a vibe for it. Like I do I care if you have connecting rooms? I'll check if I ever need them. That's how I
Yes.
feel. I know not
I
everybody is
agree.
like that, but like so things like that where I could add in like a let's kind of get a sense of what else is here, but
Yep.
let's not overexert ourselves and still enjoy it. And honestly, it was. I was like, okay, great. What like compared to the property we're staying at versus this property, like what vibe do you like most and why? And I think we were all on the same page. Just like, we had a very boutique, like unique stay at the Inca Terra, which I loved there. And this one felt a little bit more corporate, even though they tried to have a sense of place and it was beautiful and it was lovely, but also it's an autograph collection and you could kind of tell.
Well, but then there's also like the price point. Like, of course, we love Inca Terra, but Inca Terra is more expensive, right?
Well, no, that hotel is it was more.
Well, then what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Okay.
don't know. Yeah.
That's
It's like,
weird.
yeah. It was
Well,
just
don't do that.
yeah, it was a larger hotel. It was, you could tell like obviously, people who, I don't know, it's Americans. Like anytime I see a
Yeah.
lot of Americans, I'm kind of like, ew.
Beep, beep, beep.
But I think they just really loved our property. It only had like 11 rooms, the courtyard, like it was just very lovely. And so, yeah, there's that hotel, there's the Belmond that was across the street from us. Those were
Mhm.
like the three properties that really we needed to see in Cusco. There's other ones, yes, but I'm not, like I said, our days were so full, it wasn't the priority. There's a ton of hotels in Lima, but like I had one night there. And
Yeah.
so no thanks,
Mhm.
I'd rather eat. And so I did a food tour instead and was just
Yep.
like,
Did you love
that
it?
was a great experience. I'm like, Lima is freaking hitting it on food, the food scene.
I'm writing a newsletter all about this. Like
It's incredible,
the number of the world's best restaurants that
which
are
I didn't
in
even
Lima
realize. Yes.
are
Like,
insane. And
yes.
usually people just like skip Lima at all costs.
They don't even want to like look at it
They
on the
just want to
airplane.
airport hotel it
Yeah.
if or
Yeah.
not if they don't have to. But I'm like writing a whole newsletter. I'm like, if you
It
love
is so
food,
true.
like
This is
you
stay
might
here for a
want
couple
a
nights.
couple nights
Yeah,
in Lima. Yeah.
100%. So the tour we did was actually not like a walking food tour. It was literally like a driver taking us to like 4 or 5 different restaurants. So it was like
Cool.
a culinary experience, which I was like, if I want to see anything in Lima, I want to see this. And I loved every dish we had. And even we would do like this taste test, like what was the best pisco sour we had? What was the best ceviche we had? What was the best
Mhm.
lomo saltado we had? And like Lima was freaking hitting it, man. So yes, that would be, obviously there's a ton of hotels. It's a big city, but I couldn't tell you really anywhere except where I stayed. But I'm
Yep.
not concerned about that. That's not what's going to make or break my ability to make a good Peru itinerary. So yeah, I mean, I think that there was learning experiences for me, and there was like, hey, you know, retention and job satisfaction. I think is an important consideration, especially at this point in my business. I want people here long term. And so I'm hoping that this, and, you know, I guess it's up to them as well. But I think that, like, say, if you were to say, hey, do you want X amount of dollars, like, as a bonus, or do you want to go on this cool trip? Sometimes I think it might be hard to be like, well, just give me the money in my pocket. But at the end of the day, you get the trip, but you also get like the intangible experiences that's going to help you be better at your job. And so I
Yeah.
think that's my thought process as well. Like, do I want to give them, a huge end of the year bonus, or do I want to invest in this experience? And I know, number one, they're going to enjoy the experience because we all like travel. And number two, they're going to be more invested in this career choice for
Yeah.
now, hopefully.
It's probably best is if you make that decision as a CEO, because I think if
Yeah.
you offer like trip
Yeah,
or
it's hard
money, like
to
people are going to
turn
pick
down
money.
money. Yeah,
Yeah.
of
And
course.
that trip is work-ish because like they're not bringing their partners, like
Right.
they're traveling and maybe you all like each other, maybe you don't. Like traveling together with people is hard. Like sometimes you can
Yeah.
be great friends in real life and then you travel together and you're like, whoa.
Not again. Yeah. I have friends that I
Yeah.
have no
Oh,
desire to travel with. Like, no,
me
thank
too.
you. We'll go
Me
to
too.
happy hour.
Exactly.
Let's keep it there.
And then I will get on the airplane by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm thrilled to hear that that went well and that as a business owner that you really felt like money well spent, like really good
Yeah.
investment and that you would do it again.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. So,
Your inbox isn't exploding with Peru inquiries now. I mean, the
oh,
trip
I mean,
looked
that's how it
incredible
happens, right? Like, you go on a trip, and then 2 days later, you have 17 new inquiries for that exact
all for that
destination. Yeah.
destination.
So,
That's
really, this
not
is how you guys need to just check the ROI on your FAMs. But I haven't had 17 inquiries, period. So, I'm
total.
definitely not
We'll
17
chat
to
about that
Peru.
next. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And I'm hoping so. Like, I feel, number one, I wanted to put something new on the radar of my
Yeah.
audience. And also, what I also learned is, and this is something that like they could take away as well. Hey guys, like, who's this kind of trip good for? It is fast paced. There is a lot, going on. You are moving around a bit to kind of really get a sense of, like, there's a lot of cool things. Are you going to miss the Sacred Valley? Are you going to miss Machu Picchu? Are you going to miss, like, there's a lot of cool things that you want
Yeah.
to do. If they're
Yeah.
not down the street from each other, you have to move around a lot. You have to be willing to kind of have an active adventure
Yep.
type vacation. What we also saw was, okay, you still get lovely properties. You still get a very like great sense of culture. So if people are those that more adventurous type and can be on the move and enjoy that, we can still give them that with an elevated experience. And we also learned kind of like the shit show that Machu Picchu can be. Like, it's great, it's cool to see, but like, damn, those buses are for the birds. Like, what the heck? So I see now, I looked at the price of the Belmond and I was just like, two rooms. No, let's stay at the Inca
So,
Trail.
so let's chat about this because right after you posted about the buses, and I think I DM'd you, or if I didn't DM you, I was like, oh wait, how does the Belmont work? Because I haven't been to Peru yet either. So then I went to Summit last week, our host agency event, and the Belmont rep was there, and I was like, so tell me about Machu Picchu. This work. It was perfect timing. It was
Such
perfect.
perfect timing. So let me make sure I'm correct, but you don't have to deal with the bus craziness if you're staying at the Belmond, right?
I don't believe so. No,
I
I
think
mean
you can do
that would be
that would
insanity if
so the
Belmont
only
clients were having to wait for that bus.
right. The thing is, there's no other. I couldn't kind of like somebody else DM'd me in terms of like, yes, you can get a private bus or something, or you can cut the line. I don't know, but you do something to get to the Belmond that doesn't involve the craziness that every single other person who is going up to the Citadel has to deal with. I met another couple there, and what they did was they got off on the train on the next to last stop, and then they hiked into the Belmond, which was
Oh,
also an
okay.
option that sounded pretty cool. And so they had a porter as well, but it's like a day hike. It's not like the overnight Inca Trail, but they do the last portion of the trail and then arrive at the Beltman. I would totally do that option because it gives you a cool adventure that's like a legitimate hike. It's super challenging, but you're not doing the overnight in the tent crap like that. I don't really care for personally.
I'm on their website trying to find like the how do you get here section of their website, and it's not clearly stated,
Okay, so
which I think is why there's a little bit of mystery
yeah.
around it.
So here, the thing I had about it when I saw it is because like the hotel is literally like at the right of the entrance of the Citadel, where all the buses and all the lines of people and it chaos right there. And so I was thinking, like, are you paying whatever it was, $900,000 a night to stay? Like, it just didn't seem like it was great to like wake up and be right there, but like it seems super chaotic and I couldn't like really tell like what the property itself like I should have looked at it, but again, I only had one night in Machu Picchu and I had other things to do. So I didn't. And that was probably my bad, but it would be something I consider as a definite win because that part of Machu Picchu experience was for the birds.
So, transportation, it says the only way to and from the hotel is to take a private bus, buy a round trip ticket from the booth when you arrive at Aguas Caliente train station. So, like, I think you are on a bus, you are going up and down that road. It's just simply private.
And so you're paying additional for the private bus.
Yeah, it doesn't mention the cost.
Yeah,
It
because
says
the
buses
only vehicles I saw were these
for
buses.
buses. Yeah. And that's probably how it is because there's a lot of sites where like you don't let private, but it's just
Yeah,
private. So then the next question is how much is this private bus?
right. And so on top of,
It says
whatever
buses depart every 20 minutes. The journey takes 30 minutes. So yeah, you're on the same bus that you were on. It's just private. So was your concern of the chaos a million people on a crowded bus, or was it just simply the fact that like the only way I can go up here is to get on a bus, private or otherwise? This is like not cool.
the bus, you have a timed entry to Machu Picchu, and then like the lines to get on the bus are like, oh, if you have an 8 a.m. time, if you have a 9 a.m. time,
Mhm.
but the line, it's like Disney World on steroids. So there's these buses that are continuously going, but there's not enough of them for the number of people that, and they said a reason why our guides were like, oh, I don't know, people are striking or what have you. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
There's a limited number of buses. It's less than it used to be. And so you go to get in line for your bus to get to the Citadel at your time, and the line is like as far
Okay.
as the eye can see. And you got
Okay.
to stand in the back of it and make your way forward. And there's no way around that. So
Yeah.
a private bus to skip the line would still be far
I don't
better.
get the impression that you're skipping the line here.
Oh,
We would have to ask. I don't know for sure. And this is
okay.
obviously like a great shop talk conversation. Like, so how
Right.
does it work, Belmont? I think that's a good question to ask Belmont. Is it on your Hive profile? I'm going to go check. How do you get there? No, I think, but what you're describing though is 100% why traveling and traveling with your team, who is so in the weeds with the details on the itineraries for all these clients, this detail and like managing expectations for your clients who are going to go to Machu Picchu, like if you tell them about this in advance and you paint this picture for them, then they understand what they're getting into and it drastically
100%.
impacts their experience in a positive way. It's just like me. I spent 5 minutes on my departure video for Greece to be like, okay, ferries. We
This
need to
is
have a
what you need.
chat
Yeah.
about the ferries.
It's
So
exactly the same thing.
nobody comes home being like, those goddamn ferries.
Could
I'm
you
like,
imagine? There was no lines. Everybody was just pushing
they're
each
like, they're
other.
like, wow, you weren't joking about those fairies. I'm like, no, I wasn't.
Yeah.
Cheers.
And that's exactly it. Like both Kelsey and Ellen were like, we now really understand like what that experience was like. And it wasn't clear to us. It wasn't clear to me. And now we know. And even the fact that like after our first day, when we went and just did like the easy, like you get all your pictures and you do the little trail. And we that evening had like a massage set up back at the hotel. But we're like racing, going to stand in the line to get back down the mountain, like thinking we're going to miss our massages. And it's like, we should have scrapped that. That was not a good like scheduling. It sounds nice and
Scrapped
easy, the
the
massage,
massage. Oh,
or like, because in our mind, you're like, oh, you just go up and then you do your little walk and then you just get on the bus and come back down. But nobody is accounting for the hour you're waiting to get on the bus. And then like the time is done and you got to get to
so
dinner. It was just like,
I think the
okay,
sell here is that you get on the bus and you get to Belmont and then you just check in and you
you're
relax.
there.
The
Yeah.
following day, I'm just making this up. I don't know for sure. Like, can you just walk out of the hotel and go see the Citadel?
Yes. As long as you have your time ticket for whatever time it is, you just go at that time.
So that you can literally just make it easy and sound like you just did, like walk out, see it, take the photos, go back. You don't have to take the buses back down. So now you just get to enjoy your time at the
Right.
lodge, maybe get a massage. I'm
Yeah.
sure that there are some more strenuous hikes that you can do from the lodge or
Yeah.
nearby. And so
Yeah.
like getting up and down is fundamentally the same, but then once you're there, the experience is a little bit
Yeah.
nicer.
100%.
Okay. Well, it's super important to like understand these details. So
And
I
this
hope
is
your
the point
team,
of a fam. Yeah.
I really hope your team, like you took them on a badass vacation. I hope they understand that. Like you are very generous. I'm very
Yeah.
impressed and I want to be
Thank you.
Brianna someday. So let's chat about these
Oh,
inquiries because
yes. Is this your challenge for the month?
my challenge is, yeah, like inquiries have been slow and I'm trying to understand my emotions from the standpoint of like, do they feel slow? Like, are they on par with last year and they just feel slow now because I have a team supporting me and there's like things that are being taken off my plate? So it's just more like evident. Are they really slow like compared to last year? I need to go look because I'm just kind of thinking like the inquiries that are coming in right now. If I was just working by myself as a solo travel advisor, it'd probably feel good, like not slow, but not fast. But because I'm on high alert that I'm now paying two salaries in addition to my own, I now kind of go to bed every night with this like little underlying panic mode
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
because it's not a question of paying them. The money is there to pay them, but currently if the inquiries aren't coming in at a great enough volume, they're getting paid with my salary. Like it's taking money away from me. So there's not a concern that they won't get paid. There is the concern that can we pay all three of us in a healthy way, in a way in which I would like to pay all three of us.
And that's a very hard wrestle because I almost want to say I want to take the mindset and the mentality of the whole like profit first thing and the idea that like you get paid first. Like at the end of the day, the business doesn't
I'm getting
exist.
paid. I'm
But
just
yeah,
like
like
taking
your
a bit of a
salary
cut.
is, yeah. If your
Yeah.
salary is your salary is your salary, and that it just stays like non-negotiable, then it's even more like, because I'm trying to think if like, can I cut my salary? It would be a hard conversation for
Wouldn't
my
be great.
family.
Yeah. So I think what's going on in my mind right now is like I brought in the second employee in August and we didn't have well, we had a bunch of new inquiries in August because I was just coming off maternity leave. So there were people waiting for me to come back. And so that kept us really busy. And then September, like basically from the last week in August through now, our departures have just been bananas.
Mhm.
And so they've both been extremely busy since we brought the second employee on to the point that I feel a little bit of like, had I not hired her, could my employee have handled all of that? Just a single
Mm.
employee. And
Mhm.
I think the answer is no. that means it would have been a lot would have been back on my plate, which like then slows
You
us
don't want
down
that.
again,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah, yeah.
that's not the goal here. We can't grow if I'm back to creating Shopify itineraries kind of thing.
Right, right.
So I felt good about bringing her on when I did. And now that all the departures are out, literally, I'm not a big festive person. So like the rest
No.
from now
Yeah.
to year's end in terms of departures, it's like very, very, very quiet, very manageable things, the little that's on the books. And so now is like an inquiry period. And I believe I'll go back and look at my history, but I believe it's not like a boom and increase, but there's always like something.
I will tell you that my Q4 increase is out of all three, at least from last year, out of all three other quarters, 50% less than more. And Q1's the highest. So it's like a whole lot less. But in Q2 and Q3, around 50% less in Q4. So it is the slowest amount of time for me to get inquiries.
This year or as a pattern, like in general.
So for sure from last year, based on 2023, I mean we're still just starting Q4 of 2024. Like what year is it? Across the board though, my inquiries are down from last year. So I'm looking at that trend, but then I'm also looking at like year-long trend. So I guess my question to you first of all is not needing to panic now, understanding like if this is a trend, if you go back and look at your numbers and say, hey, here's what I know to expect from like when inquiries come in and what that means for my overall year. Here's where I'm tracking overall, like as you end 2024, here's how I'm tracking overall for 2025 to look like. And if it continues on that pattern, overall, will I be okay? I know personally, when I look at what's coming in for October, November, December, what I'm paying out for salaries is coming out from revenue and profits earlier this year. I will not have enough to cover the last 3 months based on what I make in those 3 months. So I'm already like, I know that I have it, but I know that I'm not earning it. Like it's not,
Right.
it is
Where
going to
it's
be,
burn. It's a
yes,
net burn. Yeah.
yes. So when I'm ending the year and looking to next year, I guess where I start to feel a little bit like, oh, is if I feel behind on what I think I'm going to be to need to support salaries and business expenses for the business that you now have. Do you think that if you look back and see this is par for the course come Q4, but where I'm trending now starting 2025, I think I'll be okay, or there needs to be something that changes or shifts for me to be okay?
Something needs to change and shift
Okay.
because my busiest months for commissions coming in are May through October. And so the revenue coming from inquiries from fees is fundamentally what's going to drive everyone's salary now through April, now through May. Because like
Mm.
I do have trips in January, I do have trips in February, but like it's nothing compared to the volume of
Mhm.
trips I have in May through October.
Mhm. Mhm.
So so like revenue is always coming in, but it's coming in different ways, right? And so it's the new inquiry fee income that has to like pay the salaries for like let's say the next 6 months. And so there's enough like built up commissions in the bank right now to like give us a little bit of headway of like
Mhm.
runway, let's say. But it's what I have earned from commissions right now in the bank is not going to like cover us all the way till the next commissions come in May, till the next big wave of commissions comes in May. And so between now and there, the fees are what's going to bridge that gap. Now, fees are coming in for sure. It's not like the well just ran dry. But because I'm not only paying myself, I'm also paying three of us. The volume of fees, which means the volume of new inquiries that are needed to support all three of us, fundamentally has to be a higher volume than it ever was a year ago. Because a year ago, there were two of us, and now
Yeah.
there are three of us.
Yeah. That's an interesting way of looking at it. I think that so percentage wise, off the top of your head, like just overall revenue, do you know how much your fees are like of your overall revenue?
Probably 20%.
Yeah, I think mine's 20, it's like 28, 30% of mine. I want fees to cover, yeah, they can't. I don't think I've ever considered them covering salaries. So that's a interesting way.
That's my goal.
Yeah.
is that fees cover those two salaries
There are 2 sellers. Okay.
and commission covers my salary and business expenses.
Okay.
Now, until we get to that point, a little bit of everything is covering
Covers
everything, but,
everything.
like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I'm driving toward, and so I have the number in my mind of to pay my 2 employees, we need this much per month. That equals this many fees
Gotcha.
on
Gotcha.
average.
And how comfortable or how far out are you averaging to make sure that like it doesn't like feel hard in the low months? So like for instance, if overall, and let me just use like easy numbers because math is not my strong suit. Overall, if it costs $100,000 a year to run your business, business expenses and salaries, right? That's let's say
120 fees.
120,000. Yeah, no, let's say 120,000 so I can easily divide. So overall, you need to just make sure that there's $10,000 a month, right? Am I doing math right?
Yes,
$10,000 a month to just run business and keep you afloat, just basic math. So $10,000 a month. How far ahead do you feel you need to be comfortable to make sure that you're not waiting for that month to bring in a part of that $10,000?
you mean, like, how much do I have sitting in the bank to know that if nothing came in
Like it's not like say for instance, when you get to November, whatever comes in November is going to be like what's spent in February basically, right? Like the build up to once you get to November is like, yeah, there's $10,000 that covers November. Whatever comes in November, like that's probably like theoretically if we're just like marking the bills is going to be paid out a couple of months from now. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like, yeah, what's
like, how much runway do I have? Is that what
yeah,
you're
yeah, kind of
like,
like the runway.
if all inquiries and all commissions stop today, how much runway do I have? I could pay $10,000 a month for the next 5 months, something
Like,
like this?
is that how you think of it to kind of like make sure that it's a comfortable position to find yourself in no matter like what time like you hired in the middle of summer and so you caught the wave of like the busyness but you didn't catch the wave of the money windfall as much.
I'm not thinking about it like that. Maybe I should be. I do think that the runway question is really important. The really, really big checks from September have started to come in, which makes me feel good. But the reason why I'm still kind of, I think my anxiety or like all of my mind trash right now is less about my runway because I have runway. Like I wouldn't have hired if I didn't have
Yeah.
runway because
Yeah.
that's just
You're
not
not yes.
financially responsible. I think what is going on in my head right now is like, I hired support so that I could be in more of a sales role, which means that I am out bringing in new business. I want to expand our book of business. I essentially want to double it over the next 2 years, like the number of trips that we are planning, because now we have three of us. We can handle far more than when we just had one and a half of us. And so I'm seeing like now that two people are supporting me, my role in getting out, making new connections, bringing in new inquiries, planning those trips, but then handing them off much quicker than I used to, that's my role. And
Mhm.
so I think when I'm going to bed and what's kind of keeping me up at night is like if new inquiries aren't coming in, I'm failing at my new position that I just
Mm.
promoted myself to.
Mhm.
My new position is go drum up new business, go drum
100%.
up new inquiries. And so I think the question, like, I'm not being too hard on myself yet in the terms of like, you just hired in August, you're not going to see an uptick in new inquiries the
In
following month.
September.
Like
Yeah.
it does take a little bit of time,
But are you
but I
being
think
proactive enough?
I'm trying to be proactive. I think marketing, we all know that marketing is difficult because
Okay.
it's the long game and you don't always know what's going to trigger the inquiries. You don't always
Yeah.
know, is this going to bring in a new inquiry next month or in 6 months? And so I think
Right.
that uncertainty is a little bit unsettling for me.
Mm.
And I just think that like, so I think the conversation I'd love to have with you is like, when we see the inquiries are down as business owners who have a team supporting us, not only they're supporting us in a way that we can get out and do more sales activities, but they're also supporting us in a way that we have to pay them. So this is like twofold. As business owners who are seeing the inquiries are down, what are we doing about it?
Right. Okay, this is a good question. It's funny because a couple of weeks ago I was talking with Haley. Hi, Haley, because she's hiring her third person, and so I was like just sharing with her like here's like the role responsibilities like when as I have three and like what they do and what I do and color coded and all that kind of stuff just to give her like a visual. And she's like not in a mean way at all. She's like, so like what do you do? You take all this stuff off your plate, like what are you doing all day? I know what she was
Well,
asking.
that's
I totally
asking.
get it because she was just like, huh, that's a not a lot of your color on the
Honestly, my
workflow.
spreadsheet is starting to look like that
Yeah,
too, which is
right,
great. That's
right.
what we're going toward.
So this is a question. So now that the workflow, the day-to-day duties and responsibilities for fulfilling these trip requests are not our responsibility, what is our responsibility so that the the quality and the quantity of the clients that we're bringing into the workflow increases if needed, if wanted, if needed to support the business that we now have. That is kind of like where you find yourself and where I find myself, even more
Mhm.
so because I'm just seeing a little bit of a like drop. And now it's like, okay, proactively, what am I going to do? Right now, what's on my to do list is so we just discussed this last week. We made a list for the last couple of years, all top 20% of clients who has not planned a trip this year or next year. And like we kind of so top 20%, which is kind of like a vague. It could be less or more because some of them we just highlight and be like, you know what, if they don't come back, it's not going to break our heart. Or, we really loved this client, but they didn't make that 20% mark. So like let's add them to the list, whatever. And it's
It
not
is top
just,
20% by revenue?
yeah,
Okay, so you're identifying 20% of clients that you worked with last year or this year based on how much they spent.
the last since 2022 to now. So 2022 to now, and did was the revenue good? Were they were a good client to work with? And have we not heard from them to plan either a trip this year or next year? And so we automatically already part of our workflow send out like a 6 month follow up. So if they've gotten a 6 month follow up in the last 6 months, I'm not going to send them something else right away. Everybody else, I'm writing. It's so now I have the list. I just got the list this week and I know all the clients and I'm just going to like spend some time with, hey, who is this client? What's going on in their lives? What type of trip did they go on last time? What type of trip might make sense for their next trip? If it was a multi-gen, if it was a honeymoon, whatever the case may be. Is there anything else I know about them? Is this a repeat client or were they a one and haven't heard from them since? But like taking the time, each of these people is going to get just a literal open my Gmail and write them an email from my heart type of response. And get an idea of, are we not traveling right now for some reason, or do we have something on the horizon? Are we thinking about something and you just want me to do a little research? Because guess what, I do actually have the time to just like shoot the shit and even do a little bit of like preliminary research just cuz like, I don't know, is this a good, like, I just have the time in Q4 to be able to do that and the capacity while I'm not planning trips and I'm not having a big festive season to have these like personalized reach outs. So that's the first thing that's on my to-do list in terms of drumming up the business that's already there that I'm not quite sure how come we're not planning a trip again type of thing. And I hope it's not because they didn't enjoy working with me. That would be
Mhm.
a bummer. I think they did. Like all these people I'm going to write to, I feel like we did a great job and they had a good experience. So hopefully the feeling is mutual. And then hopefully that just this year is what it's going to be. But what I'm really concerned with is how next year is going to turn out. So my goal is everything that I'm doing is how is this going to turn out? How is this going to impact next year's numbers? I think we both did new things with our branding and all of that. But again, that's such a long game that I don't like. It's not to sit back and just be like, let's see what my website's going to bring in this month. That's not the case. How am I putting people's eyeballs on my website? And what is on there that's going to help them. So my thing that I have been looking at, and this is probably if you take the time to look at your analytics and your data from like your website, I'm like, there are a lot of people, not a lot, because it's not like I'm an influencer or anything like that, but there's a lot of people on my website that aren't filling out a trip design form. Why are you here? Why are you clicking on the plan a trip page? Like I can see how many people are clicking on a plan a trip page and not filling out my inquiry form. So I'm going to go back now. I had my team listen to your interview actually with Jeremy about it's a yes till it's a no. And I'm like, give me your thoughts.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to sway you. I just want to know what you think. And what we've come up with is we're making our form shorter. We're asking follow-up
Oh, you
questions.
updated your website, girl. Looking good.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is
Yeah.
different. I mean, I feel like I looked up your website like a month ago. This is
I
new.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
Looking
It's a refresh.
good.
The brand is the same, so it's not like a whole new rebrand, but it's a refresh of the website, which I do love. I think it's like updated and like makes me a little bit happier
I love
for
it.
sure. So we're going to update our form and shorten it and see if we can't have a conversation with more people that are landing on the website and if they can be in alignment with the type of travel we want to plan. So Kelsey was like, we're very similar in personality. She's like, I don't want to like throw open the gates. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to be talking to every Tom, Dick, and Harry every day. But it is, she's like, I can definitely, like, he made some really good points and there's a lot of things to consider. And she's like, and I've been like so like set on being the gatekeeper and there's room for nuance and let's ask some follow-up questions.
Agreed.
Let's just be a little bit more open. And so that's the second thing that we're going to do is to change the form, simplify it, have the follow-up questions, have the educational component of like, hey, you want to go to the Amalfi Coast for this budget. What about if we think of the Turkish Riviera? I don't know.
Oh my God. Yep, pretty much.
Like,
Yep.
so
Or Milwaukee.
they've got a lake in Minnesota. It doesn't have to be like Como. Oh,
Oh my
shoot.
God. Laughing because it's true.
Yeah, yeah. And what I don't want to see happen is us just having a whole bunch of like unrealistic,
Yes.
consults on the calendar where we're just spending day after day talking to people that are not going to be good fits. But
Mm.
we're open to like, let's see where this goes and really just start with a different mindset and see what happens. So that's another thing that we're going to try for 2025 and get that kind of going.
I need to tell you that there's some white font on your website that I can't read unless I
Oh,
highlight it. So you got to go look at that.
okay. Thank you
I
for
saw it
telling
on
me
the
that.
homepage and now in your form too. Like it's like I can barely see white. And so when I like highlight it in blue, it's like I can read it.
Oh, you know what? That's not supposed to be like that. It wasn't like that like 2 days ago. So that must have accidentally changed. It's like
All good.
something, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
there's
not supposed to
something.
be white. It's supposed to be like the dark charcoal color.
Oh, look at you using color
I
charcoal.
know.
So, okay. So I love all this. Okay. How about your quiz?
So this is now with this new refresh, it's part of the website front and center. So what I need to do, and this is another thing, and I'm working with somebody in terms of just a whole marketing strategy. And we have a
Okay.
call tomorrow, and it's going to cover everything from. So this is my third thing I would say. These are the three things that I'm kind of like focusing on for
Uh-huh.
2025. So with the marketing person, while this is going to be another like investment if I choose to like move forward with it, she's already kind of given me well, we're going to talk about it tomorrow, but this is like the overall like strategy plan, right? Like taking into account, here's my goal. These are the different marketing initiatives that we can take to work that goal. Here's the type of client that I'm trying to reach. So not only just post more on social media, but like if I'm going to be on social media, like here's the strategy. What is the strategy with my newsletters? What's the strategy with my blogs? What are people doing when they're on my website? How do I get more people to get on my newsletter and then make my newsletter an effective resource for people actually planning trips? Because I feel like I'm like, great, my open rates are good. Like it's whatever. I'm consistent, but like, is it driving anybody to actually plan a trip? I
Right.
don't really think so. I
Right.
honestly feel like people read it and they might be like, oh, that was worth opening, but not,
Interest.
yeah,
Yeah. I kind of
not,
feel that I feel the same. Whereas I hear other travel advisors who are just like, every time I send a newsletter, I get an inquiry. And
yeah,
it's
like,
like,
no, absolutely not.
I've never had that experience.
So there's something about how I'm approaching it that maybe could be different. So we're going to look into that. And then other things, PR type things, podcasts, being a guest on podcasts, articles, etc. So she hasn't given me what she costs yet. So this I've only paid for the strategy call.
And
Whether
then
or not
that,
I invest all of that. Yeah.
once that person maps out the strategy, then will she implement it or she kind of hands it off to you and then you
No,
take
I
it
mean,
from there?
I paid her to create it, and if I don't pay her to implement it, like, I can just have it, obviously, but
But
tomorrow
she
I'll
would
know,
do that.
yeah, this is be
Okay.
like, and, this was like a really random every once in a while, you probably get these in your inbox as well. People just kind of reach out to you, be like, "Oh," but hers was very like, I knew she looked at my website. I knew she looked at my social. I was like, "Sure, we can have a conversation because this is actually on my brain right now." And then what she's come back with so far has been interesting and intriguing. Like, I feel like she gets it. So if she just created a job for herself, I'm not mad about it because it saves me the trouble of going and hiring somebody for this exact thing that I actually want.
Sure,
If
sure.
and I have to make the dollars make sense, but it also is one of those things that has been on my like, if I am going to invest on the marketing side of the business and having somebody like create a strategy and then follow through and implementing it all, if I can make it make sense, it'll probably be something that I go forward with. So anyway, that's me. What have you thought about?
Yeah, it's a lot. So I think I've thought of some similar things. So I have a list, what's kind of like also getting under my skin. I have a list of repeat clients who travel annually and are ready, like they know what the next trip they want to plan is, but it's all like next fall. And so it's like just a little bit too early to like reach out to them to get started. So I'm just kind of sitting on that list for now, but I would say November gets to be into the holiday season. And so then like are those trips are probably not going to get started until January. And then January, I'm going to want to pull my hair out. So I can see that that pipeline is there. But again, that's all repeat clientele. And I'm looking for growth. So that in my mind is like, it's not the fix, right?
Mhm.
I think I shared in a previous conversation that we had that I have like, I've started this new inquiry folder in my inbox. So any sort of just like general outreach that I get that's just like asking a question, maybe I sent a fee, but they didn't pay it, anything like that. I'm keeping them all in that folder. And now every single week I go back into it and I follow up. And that has like pushed the ball forward a little bit with some, like just that little extra touch point is helping. I think the next thing that I'll need to focus on is what you mentioned of like start proactively reaching out to people who you liked traveling, who probably will be traveling again next year, and like don't wait for them to come to you in January or February. Like just reach out now and at least like start the conversation. I think that that should always be happening. Investments are really tough. I think when you're feeling like the scarcity of not enough new inquiries are coming in, but I have always wanted to have a touch point with clients that like I'm not like a Christmas ornament person. I love that you do that, but I can't just like copy you. So what what I want to do is take a photo that clients share with me when they travel and just kind of surprise them like 6 months later like a framed photo and like send it to them in the mail with like a little note from me. So it's kind of like that 6 month touch base, but it's also like a thank you for your business and also a long enough after their previous trip that hopefully that will instigate them to be like, here's what we want to do next.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping I haven't implemented this yet, but like what my plan is that it's we send them out like quarterly so that it's not a end of year type of thing, but it's more landing in their mailbox kind of 6-ish months after they return home is my
Yeah, I
goal.
like that. I actually think we had decided as well to kind of combine the 6-month check-in with photo appropriate, like, if they send a photo, it's gonna be tied to the photo. So, because I was like, "Hey, do we wanna do anything with the photos? If we do, this is another expense. Are we taking away something else that we, like, already spending money on?" Because I feel like I kinda spend money in a lot of different places, right? It's like
Yeah.
the welcome I send now everybody a welcome amenity, and that adds up, and then printed itineraries if they want it, and then a Christmas ornament, and, like, I'm just like, "Okay, like, let's slow the roll a little bit here." But now I think if they do respond to the feedback, whatever, how was your trip, and the photos that we've asked for, and they include it, then we'll tie those into what like the 6-month check-in. So it's not a new
Oh,
thing. There's always going to be a 6-month check-in, but is their 6-month check-in going to be like a postcard of their trip like type of a thing. Something maybe that's not a huge investment, but is a more personalized 6-month check-in.
Oh, I like the idea of a post. So then when you send a postcard, are you writing on it or are you like,
I haven't
is it
got there
like a,
yet. I don't know. It was just a
well,
like idea yet of like could the like, it'll be if a tangible thing sent versus an email, and then
mhm.
it'll be like a photo esque. And so Alan's idea was the postcard, but like her job is to research what that looks like.
So, I don't know if let me know if she actually finds an option, but I like the postcard idea because I've been looking into like framing a photo that they share with me and then shipping it to them. And it is expensive.
Right. That's
Like
what I was like
the
trying to get away
photo
from with a
itself
$60
is
gift.
exactly like the photo itself, like printing and framing might only be 20 or 30. And then for whatever reason, the shipping is $24. And it's
Yeah.
just like, what? Like, I
Yeah.
can't, that doesn't. And then like, then I start getting in my head of like, do they even like that photo? Like, that's when they shared with me, but like, is that when they want framed in their house? Whereas I love the idea of like when you get Christmas cards, like family photos from like your friends and family for Christmas, I have one hanging on my fridge from 3 years ago because I love the photo. So if you send like a postcard of a photo they shared with you, I could totally see that just like living
Yeah.
on their fridge or living wherever they keep those types of things, that it's like memory of their trip that doesn't, it's not like now this like big framed ordeal that has to like find a place in their home. It can literally just be put up on their fridge, but is a nice gesture. I
Yeah.
think I like that better.
Yeah. So I'll let you know what her research
Yeah, please
uncovers
do. Because
there.
I
Yeah.
have not moved forward on the photo idea simply because I found the one I liked and then it was so expensive that I was just like, this isn't feasible.
Yeah. It's not scalable.
Okay. So that is a big thing that will be happening in November of like sending out. I don't want it to feel like a holiday thing.
Hmm.
And then I want to like batch it and get it in like a systemized process so that it's happening quarterly. And so people are just getting these postcards all the time throughout the year.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like a touch base with current clients. I also am completely rebranding and my new website should be done in a couple weeks. And so I'm very eager to have that done. Again, like you said, more people don't just magically show up on my website and complete my form or whatever. So there it does have to be like marketing efforts going out to bring people back into your website. So I'm working with my marketing person to really outline like, okay, in the past, I've invested really, really heavily on Instagram and Instagram alone, and it didn't produce for me. Whereas I've never invested heavily on a newsletter. And so not only are we focusing on newsletter content and being really consistent in that way, but we're also focusing on blog content to constantly like drive people back to the website. But then I've also implemented a quiz on the website to try to help like new people getting on the newsletter because I don't just need the same repeat clients. I need a bigger pool of
Yeah.
ears and of eyes. And so I'm hoping that the quiz will help to like get new emails into the system. So they get a welcome sequence. So they get to know a little bit about me. And then they're on the biweekly newsletters to kind of learn about me and then eventually prompted to like reach out and plan a trip. But you're exactly right in saying that like it's great to have a new website, it's great to have a quiz, but like the KPI I will be looking for, the metric I will be tracking is like how many new people joined our email list this month.
Hmm.
And I don't know what success looks like. I don't know what that number should be, but it's probably something like 15 to 20 people minimum. And then if for every 15 to 20 people who joined, one person reaches out to plan a trip, okay, you get 100. If we go by that math, 100 people join your email list, 5 people reach out to plan a trip, 5 people are aligned, like a good client for you. If I increase my inquiries by 5 per month, my problem is solved.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really, it's a matter of like, I don't know if this will work, but this is what I'm trying.
Hmm.
And also the newsletter content, I've tried to be very, very, very intentional. I told my marketing person, like, I feel like I've tried newsletter and social media like a million times and it ends up just never working. And I never feel like it works. So one thing I'm trying this time is I've identified 10 destinations that I know, I love, I already sell. I have a very solid partner in that destination. I know what it costs to travel there. Like I feel like an expert in those destinations. And I haven't even been to all of them, but I've planned a few of them that I've never been. I've planned it enough that
Right.
like I feel really good about that inquiry. And as soon as the inquiry comes in, there's no question of like who I'm going to work with. Like
Right.
I'm going to that partner and I know how they work so that it's also like a great seamless relationship. And I've asked her to help me ensure that 80% of our content in newsletters and on the blog and on social, 80% of the content is about those 10 destinations.
Mm,
Because if I drive destinations that I feel like I'm an expert in, then the trip planning goes faster because I know what I'm talking about and I know who I'm working with and I know what it costs, right? And now if I post Peru and you ask me for Argentina, like yes, of course I can still do that. But if there's anything I can do to be like, hey, Whitney posts about Peru a lot, or
right,
whatever destination it is, if there's anyone ever talking about Peru, I hope people are like, you should call Whitney. You know what
right.
I mean? Instead of just posting about whatever
Everywhere in the school.
destination, the
Yeah.
flavor of the month. Again, don't know if it will work. Don't know if that will have an impact. This is what I'm trying.
I know. Well, I mean, that's the catch 22 of it all. There's no guarantee with any of this, but it is you have to try something to you, there's not failure, there's only feedback. So if you try it and it doesn't work, now you have feedback that it's not the correct way you should go and you get to try something else. The hope is that you land on the thing that works and the thing that is successful sooner rather than later. Yeah, because time is of the essence, and we don't want to have like we want to have that feeling. It's so much easier to work when you are feeling like things are
Yes.
moving in the way that they're supposed to, and there's abundance, and there's like
Hmm.
it doesn't feel that scarcity part of it. It's just like what can just weigh on you, and is
Hmm.
always like, ugh, not a
Hmm.
good feeling.
Hmm. Well, let's keep this conversation going because I feel like both of us, like not today, like, in another day. Because I just feel like both of us are in a similar place where it's like we've both built our business to the point that somebody looking from the outside in is legitimately asking, what do you do? Which is funny. And honestly, that's what we've been working toward. But now we get to be the head of sales and the CEO of our businesses going out and bringing in the new business. And now we get to figure out what that means and what that looks like.
Yeah, yeah. The truth is, it's not forever. You get to a point and then there's the obstacle of that level of success or that level of achievement, and then there's a learning how to get around or over that obstacle and get to that next level of success or whatever.
Mhm.
And when I say level of success, it isn't always maybe like growth in number of clients and revenue and everything like that. Like you get to determine what success means for you,
Mhm.
but it rarely I think will ever just be like coast now for the rest of your life, you've made it.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. So right, the season that we're in is just like, okay, what's the next way around to get to where we're trying to go?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, send me anything that Ellen finds on postcards and let me know. Maybe once the election happens, inquiries will spike back up.
Let's
I'm
hope
also
so.
like over here, like, is this an election thing? I'm
Yeah,
very
I
mad about
know.
it.
I know. Well, we can make anything an election thing, right?
Honestly, we can. And every year there's some sort of an election. So basically we can
Right.
always be like, it's the election,
It's
right?
the election. Of course, it's the election. Who's going to be the governor?
Who's going to be my local district attorney? It's an election. Really got people nervous, this district attorney.
Right. Right.
Oh, well, thanks for chatting it out with me. I look forward to seeing what our updates are in the next couple months since we're both kind of in a similar slow end of year season. So now we get to pour
Yes.
into our businesses before January just explodes.
Exactly. And listen, we got a whole day to talk about this at the end of this week in person.
Exactly.
So we
At
will
our
get this
Masters in
ironed
Travel
out.
retreat.
Yes, that I'm really looking forward to kind of just spend the whole day not working on client trips, not focusing on my inbox, but really just thinking about, hey, what does my business goals actually look like and what am I going to do to reach them? So I'm excited about it.
Okay. Awesome. See you soon. For
All right.
real.
Actually, I
For
will
real.
see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.